Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case I'm going to look into today is a pretty graphic one. Just going to warn you straight away, it's pretty horrific what happened to this poor woman. But it's the case of Iana Kasian, who was a 30-year-old Ukrainian tax attorney turned model who she emigrated to the US and she became a model and she was brutally murdered, and it really is awful what happened to her. So yeah, just keep that in mind as you're going through this case. I will give you another warning before I get into more of the brutal details of like her death, so I will warn you again just to let you know in case anyone doesn't want to listen to that bit. And yeah, let's just get into the case. This case was suggested by Brittany, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you have any more, please let me know. First of all, before we jump into what happened to Ayanna, we have to look into the background of a man named Blake Leibel. Blake was born on the 8th of May in 1981 to parents Lorne Leibel and Eleanor Leibel in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. He also had an older brother called Cody. I believe Cody was like 1 year older than him. And Blake was born into a very successful family. So his parents were born, his parents, so his grandparents were very wealthy. They were just successful in whatever they did. So Eleanor's parents were really successful in business and they had, they had a lot of money. Not only that, Lorne's father, Stanley, sailed in the Olympics and he helped develop thousands of homes. And I believe a lot of their fortune came from his side as well. Basically, Blake and Cody were kind of trust fund babies, for, lack of a better word. That's how they were actually described. And they were pretty much described as being born into the lap of luxury. As like, I don't like saying that. Like, I don't know. You don't really describe a person by the money, I guess, but that's just how people have described them. Eventually, Lorne and Eleanor did actually split up, and so did the boys. One went with the mother, one went with the father. Blake ended up with his mother. And as a result of that, it really put a strain and a wedge between him and his father. It put a strain on their relationship to the point where they pretty much didn't have one. And that's really sad because that was his dad. And I don't know why, but they just didn't really have a relationship. So basically, in his eyes, he pretty much just had his mother and that was it. Eleanor unfortunately did pass away, and that left Blake, in his eyes at least, completely alone. Like, I know he still had his brother, but he had no relationship with his father whatsoever. So he did inherit half of his mother's $12 million estate, and so that left him with pretty much $6 million. So super duper rich. Blake was described as being a friendly person, and he was like really appreciated by the people around him. In 2004, he decided that he was going to move from Canada to Hollywood, essentially. He was going to go there, and in the US, he wanted to further his career. He could afford Hollywood. Again, he was a millionaire, and so, the expensiveness of Hollywood didn't really matter. And he probably would have been more able to get a job as well there, and that is what he wanted to do. He wanted to further his career, he wanted to do something with his life and do it in Hollywood, and that is what he did. So he now lived in California. He ended up getting a job working for this animated TV show called Spaceballs, and he actually ended up directing 2 of the episodes in that series. He also did direct this a very low budget film called Bald. In 2006, he met a woman called Amanda Braun, and they quickly hit it off. They had like this really good relationship, and then after being together and dating for years, they got married in 2011, by which point she was already pregnant with their first son. For the next 4 years, Blake's behaviour began to change. He began being very paranoid and very irrational and erratic. In 2010, he co-wrote a book called Syndrome. It was published. I'll put a picture of it up and you can see who the other authors are. I believe there were 4 in total. Now, it's not a book I have read, and it is not a book I ever will read. You will find out why. But, if you're interested, it's out there. Anyone can go and pick this book up and read it if they wish to. I'll put a picture of the blurb up so you get an idea of what this book was about, but he really had like these big dreams for it and these big expectations for it. now we get to 2015, where literally out of nowhere, Blake serves Amanda with divorce papers. Like, she didn't have a clue, I believe, like, really shocked by it. She was actually 8 months pregnant with their second child at this point, their second son. And I can't even imagine how awful that must have been and how stressful it must have been, because she was due to give birth, like, not long after, and he's just, there you go, we're getting a divorce. Do you know what I mean? It must have been awful. She was even more upset when she found out that he was actually seeing a new woman, which was Ayanna. And within just a few months of seeing Ayanna, he proposed to her. So, you know, pretty much straight away, he was completely over Amanda and he was onto a new relationship. Onto a new marriage, essentially. So, Iana Kasian was born on the 27th of January in 1986 in Ukraine. Her mother was called Olga. She pretty much lived there most of her life. While she was there, she studied law. She became a prosecutor at the Ukraine tax service. She worked there pretty much most of her life until she decided that she was going to move to America, I guess for the American dream. So she wanted better opportunities. She wanted to better her life. And so in 2014, she decided to emigrate to the United States. She was a very beautiful girl and she actually had thought about becoming a model. And then after only living there for a year, she met Blake. She was really happy. Like, she was finally living a dream, I guess. She was there, she was, you know, becoming a model. She had met this wonderful man who had money and he could provide for her, and he made her really happy. They made each other happy. And so she was absolutely loving life. And then, obviously, as I've already said, he did propose to her. Soon after, you know, he proposed, she got another surprise, which was that she was actually pregnant with his baby. Now, Ayanna was really happy about becoming a mother. It's all she ever wanted. She was almost 30 at the time, and she really wanted a child. You know, she was so excited to becoming a mother. She rings up her mum, she tells her. She is ecstatic on the phone, and she's telling her how she always wanted to be a mother, and you know, she just was so excited. They found out that they were having a girl, and she was born on the 3rd of May in 2016. They named their daughter Diana. And Blake seemed excited about his daughter's birth, but it wouldn't really take too long until he started to change, and Ayanna quickly began to realise that this kind of fairy tale lifestyle and dream come true life that she thought she had, that it just soon began to crumble. So phone records actually show that in the days after his daughter's birth, he's texting a friend about how he's worried for his own safety along with his family's. Now, this was because Cody, his older brother, Blake really believed that he was involved in like these high stakes gambling. So it wasn't just bits here and there. Again, Cody was very wealthy too. He was literally gambling millions of dollars to these professional poker players, and Blake was worried that he could have gotten himself involved with Russian mobsters, and as a result of that, not only would Cody's life be at risk and things like that, it would also be put onto Blake and his family, because if Cody couldn't pay, then they'd just go to Blake. Do you know what I mean? So he was really, really worried about that, and that the end results of it could become very violent for all of those around Cody. Not only that, his love life was kind of chaotic. So again, he was married to Amanda, and then he served her with divorce papers, quickly met Ayanna, got her pregnant, and then, you know, proposed to her. They were living in an apartment together in West Hollywood, California at the time, and having just had the daughter, the divorce was still going through, so that wasn't finalized yet, because again, it takes time and not that much time had passed. So that was still going through, and he decided that, you know, as if that wasn't all stressful enough, he was then gonna have an affair. So he brought another woman into the fold. This woman was called Constance Bucafiore, and it was like this love-hate relationship between the four of them. So again, with all of those stressors, his affair, everything else, his life was just kind of a bit chaotic and very stressful. Now, normal people deal with those in normal ways. However, Blake did not deal with those in normal ways, and you will find out why as we continue through the case. So this secret love affair didn't really stay secret for too long, because in the middle of May in 2016, he was arrested on the accusation from Constance of sexual assault. So yeah, Ayanna had to go and bail him out. She was the one that went and bailed him out for sexually assaulting his mistress, the person that he was having an affair with, that she probably didn't know about. So that must have been so awful for her, and there must have been like so much tension between them because of that. it must have just been horrific. Now, we jump to 3 weeks after the birth of Diane, and this is just 1 week after Ayanna had bailed him out of jail. So we're on the 23rd of May in 2016, and basically Blake tries to convince Ayanna that their now 3-week-old newborn baby has to stay with her mother, Olga, that was staying in Los Angeles at the time, because they needed to work on their sexual relationship. Now, bit of sort of context on that. Apparently, Blake had tried to advance sexually towards his fiancée, and she basically rebuffed him. Now, bearing in mind she had a C-section 3 weeks ago, and they normally tell you to not have sex for 6 weeks. Obviously, it's going to be sore, it's still all healing, but he wasn't happy about that. He would threaten her and with leaving her and ask if he could leave her for another woman. I don't know, he just wanted sex and she was like, nope, and he really felt like he needed it, I guess. So yeah, he does convince her to take her daughter to Olga. So Ayanna's there with her mum, she's out shopping, they're shopping for prams in Los Angeles, and Olga said that Ayanna received a few texts off Blake. She didn't say what they were, but she said that it was Blake texting her and that she needed to go and see him. So obviously she left Ayanna with her mother Olga because she was staying over, and off Ayanna went. Neither of them realised that this would be the last time that, you know, Olga would see her daughter ever again, which is horrible. So the next day Olga tries to reach Ayanna, she tries ringing her several times, no answer, no call back, no nothing. She starts to get a bit worried. She had this really sort of gut feeling that something was wrong, and so because of that and a mother's tuition and things like that, she ended up calling the police. The police pretty much told her that she's just had a baby, she's probably tired, sleeping in, she's with her husband, that basically she was probably just busy and it's probably nothing to worry about. Olga wasn't having any of that. Again, sometimes a mother's tuition is like, I don't know, they just get feelings and you kind of just know. So she goes over to the apartment and she tries to get in, she can't get in. So she stands across the street and she is literally shouting, top note, to Ayanna and Blake to the apartment to let her in. But nobody really comes. She never actually gets let in. At one point, Blake does come to the window, and you'd think that he would reply to her or something, but he doesn't. He just comes to the window, closes it, and then walks on by. He walks straight back. Weird, right? Definitely weird. Olga thought it was weird too, so she rings the police. At this point, she just wants them to do a wellness check, like literally just go and check that Ayanna is okay. And they decide that yes, they will do that. So the police come round, they knock on the door, and they receive no answer. Now, Blake was definitely in before that because, you know, Olga had seen him come to the window and close it. The police did not get an answer. And I don't really know what happens with a wellness check. Like, do you have to see the person that you're checking on? It's a wellness check. Surely you have to see that person to make sure they're okay. To confirm a wellness check. I don't know. But they ended up not seeing Ayanna. They ended up not seeing anyone. And then they're just like, oh well, we can't get in, let's just go. And so they leave. Again, I really don't know the ins and outs of it. Obviously, if somebody's not in, then they can't do a wellness check because that person isn't even there. But I don't know, surely there's something. Please, if you know like more about it, then do let me know, because obviously I'd like to understand why, if they have to actually see the person or not. Yeah, so please just let me know if you know that.
My name is Iana Kasian. I want to get my daughter out of that apartment safely. I want to open the doors to break into that apartment and get my daughter out.
So 3 days pass by, 3 days, you know, and no one's heard anything of Ayanna. It's 3 days since she was last seen by her mother, and the police finally decide that they're actually going to look into this case and they're going to do something.
Yes, ma'am. She won't open the door. They already tried to do that, and they tried to knock, but he doesn't open. He won't open the door because her life is in danger. We're going as soon as we hang up.
So now we're on the 26th of May. They knock on the apartment door. They don't receive an answer. And so this time they end up breaking down the door. When they did, they met with like another door. It was a hallway door. And when they tried to open this door, they found that it was, not only was it locked, it was also barricaded. Why would you need to barricade a door unless something really, really wrong was going on inside of there? So yeah, this door was barricaded. They actually ended up having to pull it off its hinges to open this door. And then when they did that, they found a blood trail leading up to the master bedroom, which is where they knew Blake was. They shouted him. At first he didn't reply, but eventually he shouted back, basically saying that he wasn't coming out. He was staying there, that they needed to leave, and that Ayanna wasn't even there. You know, Ayanna's not even here, just go. Get out of here, kind of thing. He wasn't for budging, and in the end, a man called Stephen Green, who was actually his friend and accountant, ended up being the one to manage to lure him out. According to Stephen, he had got a phone call off Blake during this kind of standoff between him and the police, and then Stephen rushed to the apartment. He goes up there and he's talking to Blake on the other side of the door. Blake then asks Stephen to hand him this outfit that's on the sofa, and then of course police want to look at this outfit before he gives it to him, so when they look at it they find that he's got his passport in, as well as $4,000 worth of cash hidden in the pockets. Now, as I said, eventually Stephen was able to lure him out of his bedroom. Blake opened the master bedroom, Blake opened the master bedroom, and that is when they saw the tortured and lifeless body of Ayanna lying on the bed, and the sight must have just been beyond horrific to comprehend. Blake was acting very callous, and when the officers said that Ayanna was dead, he replied with, "Well, I'll guess you have to find out who did it then. You did it, Blake. Like, there's nobody else there, you're in there with a body. You did it." Now, let me just say here, this is where my graphic warning comes in. This case is just something else. A lot of cases are horrible and horrific, but I don't know, this one's just awful. So there's a lot of gore and graphic scenes in it, and I just want to let you know that before I go into the details. So yeah, if you don't want to know them, please skip forward, because it is pretty grim. So Ayanna's body was found with her scalp completely torn off. So it was, you could see the bone. There was nothing left apart from a few scraps of skin on the back of her neck. Sections of the right side of her face was torn away, her right ear had been cut off, and her face was just covered in bruises, especially more so on like her left side. Also on her left side, she had a bite mark on her jaw and on her cheek. It was also noted by police that her body looked like it had been cleaned kind of before they got there, so I guess she wasn't like covered in head to toe in blood. They also found a knife and a razor next to Blake's side of the bed that was just covered in blood. Now, as if that isn't bad enough, this woman has had her scalp torn off, which is horrific, and but that isn't the worst of it, even though you may think that it is. So the medical examiner actually found out that she was alive for 8 hours at least after her scalp had been removed. 8 hours this woman was suffering and being tortured with no scalp. What on earth? Like, she must have been in so much agony, and just what he did to her was utterly horrific, and it absolutely breaks my heart to know that she suffered greatly. She suffered for so long throughout this brutal attack, and it's just beyond horrific what he did to her. When they looked through the crime scene, they saw that Ayanna's blood was everywhere, literally everywhere. Along with all, you know, his DNA. But again, he lived there, so obviously his DNA is going to be all over the place. But the sort of prominent point of all of that was that his DNA was the only one found in there, and sort of therefore he must have done it, right? I mean, they knew he did it, come on. They found pieces of her flesh throughout the master bedroom, behind the bed head, on the floor. It was just scattered all over. In the basement of the apartment complex, they found 11 trash bags containing bloody sheets and clothes, as well as clumps of Ayanna's hair. And in one of those trash bags, they also found her ear that had been cut off. On the 20th of September in 2017, the autopsy that was done on Ayanna was actually released, and her cause of death was confirmed to be homicide by torture, insanguination, and head trauma. For those of you who don't know what exsanguination is, it is basically blood loss. So her body was found pretty much with no blood left in it, and eventually, due to the head trauma and the blood loss, her body eventually just gave up. Ayanna was tortured for hours and hours, and researching this case, I just couldn't even believe it. Like, it's kind of the stuff from horror movies. It's not what you would ever presume to be something to happen in real life. Even the pathologist, Dr. James Ribe, said the following statement: "I have never seen this before, and I doubt if hardly any forensic pathologists in this country or abroad have even seen this outside of perhaps wartime. So it's extremely rare." News media reported the crime as grisly and possibly the most gruesome murder in the history of West Hollywood, if not Los Angeles. They pretty much just arrested Blake straight away with no questions asked kind of thing. Again, they just knew he'd done it. His trial date was set for June 2018. During his trial, the prosecution put forward their argument, and it was essentially that he had used his book as a point of reference to torture Ayanna. So you remember his book, right? Syndrome. It's basically about a doctor that takes a serial killer and experiments on him brutally to try and cure evil, essentially. That's what he believes, that's what the book is about. They basically said that he wrote out this book and then he carried out some of the torture acts in that on Ayanna. And they believed that his motive was that his newborn daughter, so his little 3-week-old girl, was getting more attention from Ayanna than he was. And that probably coupled with the fact that she wouldn't have sex with him probably really, did something to his ego. And so with his jealousy and his rage, I don't know, he killed her. Oh, also, whilst he was torturing her, to death, he ordered food. He must have got hungry. And so he ordered food. He asked for it to be put outside of the door so that he wasn't interrupted. Yeah, he was a real piece of work. The defense's argument was that Blake's DNA wasn't the only piece of DNA found there. However, that didn't really stand up. It didn't really go anywhere. And Blake was found guilty of Ayanna's murder. In June 2018, he was found guilty of first-degree murder with supplemental charges of torture and mayhem, and he was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole. In February of 2019, a California judge ordered Blake to pay Olga, Ayanna's family, $42 million. Diana was actually taken into Olga's care, so she lived with her grandmother. And yes, okay, they're going to be set up, pretty much for life with that kind of money. I believe that is the minimum they was going to get, so they possibly even got more. But never in a million billion years would any amount of money ever make up for what he did. He took away Ayanna's life, and I mean, he didn't even just murder her, he tortured her brutally. Tortured her. Diana now has to grow up without a mother, without ever knowing a mother. She'll obviously be told stories, she'll be shown pictures of how much her mother loved her, and she will know her mother in that sense, but she will never know her on a personal level where she's actually gets to live with her and is raised by her. And poor Ayanna, who was so excited to be a mother, never got to see her daughter grow up. Will never see her daughter grow up. And Olga, her daughter's life was stolen in such a barbaric way, and the family have to live on with that knowledge, and it's just beyond tragic because it just really is. Like, Olga knew something was wrong, and it's just really unfortunate that the police didn't really believe her. I guess, she could have been tired, she could have been sleeping in, but the horrible fact was that she wasn't sleeping in. He was torturing her. Even with the wellness check, if they would have just gone in, they probably could have saved her life. But again, I don't know the rules behind that, and I don't know what has to be done and what doesn't have to be done. It's just awful that Diana's going to grow up without a mother, Olga without a daughter, and then maybe one day she's probably going to find out that her mother was butchered by her own father. And that is just a lot to deal with. I can never understand how this evil man could ever do something so barbaric to his own fiancée, the mother of his child. It's just horrific. And again, it's like something out of a horror movie. It really is. My heart really goes out to the family for such a tragic loss. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this case. It was really, I guess I didn't really expect it to go that far looking into it, and I was pretty mortified when I read the more intricate details of what happened to her. Like, it really, I don't know, it really affected me, that, because it was just awful. But yeah, that is the end of this case. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for similar content. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the murder of Iana Kasian. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.